Hello, church family. Today is March the 30th, and in the midst of this coronavirus lockdown, I want to share a brief devotional with you today that regarding us going forward in faith and being people who are committed to the reality of Christ. One thing that I keep saying to myself and to other people is don't waste this unique experience, but use this time to develop deeper roots in Christ and to think biblically and to think with a sense of sober-minded and glad-hearted commitment to Christ. I was reading Joshua recently, and in Joshua 22, this exhortation is given to the children of Israel. He says in verse 5, only be very careful to observe the commandment and the law that Moses, the servant of the Lord, commanded you, to love the Lord your God, to walk in all his ways, to keep his commandments, and to cling to him, and to serve him with all of your heart and with all of your soul. I like this because it uses emotive terminology. Joshua does here. In chapter 1, it says, this book of the law shall not depart out of your mouth, but on it you shall meditate day and night, that you may be careful to do according to all that is written in it. That's a wonderful concept, but it's all about obedience. But in this passage, it's not only obedience, it's loving the Lord your God. It's clinging to him. I love the word cling. It's an emotional word. You cling to the Lord. You are to be people who are very careful, very careful. You examine your ways as you walk before the Lord. And he uses the same word cling in the next chapter, because he says in chapter 22, verse 8, he says, but you shall cling to Jehovah your God, just as you have done to this day. For the Lord has driven out before you great and strong nations. And as for you, no man has been able to stand against you. And then he says this, on the other hand, he says, if you cling to the remnant of the nations remaining among you, and you marry among them, and you associate with them, and they with you, know for certain that the Lord your God will no longer drive out these nations. In other words, either you cling to the Lord your God emotively with passion, or you cling to something else, the nations. And if you do that, you forfeit the blessing of God in your life. So I'm just encourage you to think about the emotive aspect of walking before the Lord. I've just finished a book by John Piper entitled 30 Reasons I Love the Apostle Paul. It's a wonderful little book. But chapter 12 says, the chapter title is this, I love Paul because he speaks with feeling about the glory of Christ, not religious activity. In other words, the Apostle Paul glories in the greatness of Christ. He just doesn't have verbiage about religious activity and doing the right thing and not doing this and going forward here and pulling back there. He talks about the glory of knowing Christ and clinging to him and walking in his way. And he says in Philippians 3, I consider everything except the knowledge of Christ to be only a passing nothingness. It's really rubbish. Anything that I formerly clung to make me right with God is really refuse. It's rubbish. It's only Christ and him crucified. So go deep in the knowledge of Christ. And as you read the Bible, say, Lord, I want to know this truth, but I want to experience it in my heart. I want to cling to you, because I need grace every day, every hour of every day. Either I run to the embrace of the Father or I try to do it on my own. And I can't do it on my own. Think of 1 Peter chapter 2, where Peter says, get rid of all malice and guile and hypocrisy and envy and slander. And like newborn children, crave the pure spiritual milk, since you have tasted that the Lord is good. You taste the goodness of Christ. And as you taste the goodness of Christ, you want more. I was recently reading about one of my heroes, Jonathan Edwards, who died in 1758. And the two words Edwards used more than any other words in his writings when he described Christ were these two words. Number one, beauty. And number two, excellence. Two wonderful words to remember. I'm praying for you. I love you. Thanks for being a great church. Let's be people who embrace Christ, touch others in the name of Christ, and one time a week, do an act of service and love to someone in your community as you express the love of Christ to them. God bless you. Have a good day.